Jürgen Talk, European Landowners Organization Secretary General, to draw the conclusions of this this 3 hours debate, and I invite him to the lecture. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for this, yeah, I would say impossible task. Let's say this is normally the moment that someone says that it's a pleasure to close a workshop. I have to say I'm going to do exactly the opposite. It's absolutely no pleasure to close this workshop because I think we had a very interesting discussion this afternoon. Very interesting, let's say, first of all, because of the content, and that was only possible because we truly have a number of international renowned experts here this afternoon, and we are not always able to fill a room with so many experts in the field. What for me is even more important is that the way the organizers have structured this afternoon's workshop, starting with a very thorough overview of facts and figures and the scientific background to what we have been discussing. And I have to say, I've been in a formal life the director of the Research Institute for Nature and Forest here in Brussels. And I had 300 employees, many of them biologists working in the field of biodiversity. And many times I said to them, well, you are scientists. I'm expecting facts and figures. I'm expecting scientific results. Too many of you do think at least that you're lobbyists. Too many of you are even thinking that you're policymakers. And then I made the switch to the European Landowners Organization, and you're coming into an advocacy organization. And then you have to come to the conclusion that too often policy discussions are based on not enough facts and figures, on not enough science. And last week I was having the pleasure to be in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and we just discussed with the colleagues of Apex. I was a keynote speaker discussing the EU-Mercosur Free Trade Agreement. And I started my presentation, just as we did this afternoon, with, let's say, the basic facts and figures. And I was surprised. We had 600 people in the room, many of them farmers. I was surprised of how many people came afterwards and said that this is the first time that someone is putting facts and figures on this trade agreement on the table. We now much better understand what the reason is for certain EU member states to be for or others to be against such a free trade agreement. And I think we have seen the same thing this afternoon. I have to say, I truly hope, and let's say ILO as being co-owner of the Forum for the Future of Agriculture, we have indicated that is something we would like to do in the future, is starting much more from the facts and figures which are available. And I do think that, let's say, Tassos having you as a special advisor to the forum is certainly going to accelerate this. And let's say what we have seen is that if you start from those facts and figures, that we are able to have a serious discussion also on the policy effects which are resulting out of that. And that doesn't mean that, let's say, everybody will agree on those facts and figures, because, let's say, I always say in physics, wherever you are in the world, if you take an apple, it's falling down, even if you're on the other side of the world. And if in chemistry, if you take two substances, you get a third or a fourth one. And that is happening if you do that in the same circumstances. That's happening each time again. That's what we call exact science. And then we have life sciences where, let's say, the number of variables, the number of conditions surrounding the science you are doing is making life so complicated that not a single time we are having the same result in the end. And on top of that, many of those variables in real life, you are not even able to control them. I think that's the case with ecology, but that's also the case with agriculture. And even if we have many figures about the past, we can have an idea of what the future will be, but are we absolutely sure? If tomorrow is something is happening, whether it's at the geopolitical level, or something is happening at the climate level, things can change significantly. And it's something we have seen, I would say, in the past weeks. We have all of a sudden a very strange weather phenomenon along the Spanish coast. And let's say we will see that in the price setting of, for instance, tomatoes in the supermarkets in Europe. But so let's say the conclusion for me is, what's the title says, Market Outlooks Workshop, what the numbers say. Let's say we have on one side, it's good that we see what the number is saying. We know that the numbers is not always leading to the same conclusions, and that it's not because we know the figures that is the end of the discussion. I would say the numbers are the beginning of the discussion. But that's something we were only able to do so because some people have presented the numbers this afternoon, and some expert policymakers have also shown that how they are making use of the figures in one or the other way. And I would like to thank all of the people, well, not only of this panel, but also of the first panel. I also would like to thank all of you in the room, because it's only because of that interaction, which is one of the, I would say, primary aspects of what we are trying to do within the Forum for the Future of Agriculture, that we are able to have that discussion. So thank you to all, and I wish you a pleasant evening. Thank you.